Ramon Will on 104.5 The Zone, fueled by Scooter's Coffee with breaking Titans news this morning. Will Levis is electing for season-ending shoulder surgery that will end his 2025 before it started on the eve of report day for Tennessee Titans Training Camp 2025. We react with you this morning. Ramon Foster and Will Bowling. Pleased to be joined today by Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com, reacting to this story and getting ready for training camp tomorrow. Jim, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well.
Good, Jim. Good morning.
Yes, sir. We're good. We're excited to watch football this week, and obviously we are reacting to this news like everyone else is. How does this impact training camp, Jim? Let's start there, and just the division of labor and the starting quarterback job that is still technically not officially named as Cam Ward's job right now.
Yeah, and the way it went this offseason, Cam got the bulk of the work, and I think as camp went along, I think he was going to get more this offseason. I expected, Will to obviously get more reps than Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle, and I actually thought until this news came down the pike that Will would have a chance to secure the number 2 spot or do enough in the preseason to generate some trade interest and potentially could find himself on the trading block if another team made an offer that the Titans couldn't refuse. But the way this thing is played out now, obviously Will is elected to have season-ending surgery. He thinks it's best for his long-term health. I think obviously this puts Cam Ward in even more of a position to get more reps and get ready for the season. And I think Brandon Allen is the favorite to be the number 2.
Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com with us. And Jim, you make the designation there with the Titan statement and with everything that you put out there that this was Will Levis's decision. That is the case here, Jim, that he made this choice. The timing of it, Jim, we're just trying to make sense of this, of why it happened in July. Kind of what did you make of when this news comes out and maybe why this wasn't a decision back in the spring in the middle of the offseason program?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. I think Will thought that maybe rest and rehab would get him to a point where he felt like he was 100%, and he just didn't feel like he got to that point. Watching him throughout the offseason, I thought he looked good. He went to California and worked with Jordan Palmer at the start of the offseason. He came back here. I thought he looked better throughout the course of OTAs and minicamp. He took part in all the offseason work and said at the last day, on the last day of minicamp, he felt good, felt like he had put himself in a good position to compete, and certainly didn't get any indication that this was even a possibility. But I think as maybe some time passed and as he consulted with doctors and his representatives, I think he felt like this was in the best interest of his long-term health. So just recently informed the team this was what he wanted to do. And, team obviously supports him, wants him to get healthy. But definitely changes the landscape at quarterback. I always thought Cam Ward was going to be the starter. I still feel like that's going to be the case. Now, obviously, Will Levis is out of the equation to even be a backup.
Joined by Jimmy Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com. Jimmy, you mentioned that part of it, too. This team has operated all offseason, spring, and minicamp and OTAs with 4 quarterbacks. Do you think there'll be a need to go get a 4th guy, or do you roll with the concentration of Cam getting the lion's share of the reps?
Yeah, it's funny. As they kept 4 all the way through, I couldn't help but I was curious myself about why they kept 4 for so long, and wondered myself if they get down to 3 at the start of camp. And now, of course, they're getting down to 3 in a way that not a lot of people expected. I think they'll probably let things play out here for a little bit and just see how guys do. I know that Brian Callahan really likes Brandon Allen. I've talked to him about Brandon Allen in the past. He's familiar with him. I think that they feel like at this point that Brandon Allen is someone who could be a solid number 2 for him behind Cam Ward. But he's going to have to earn it, and he'll have to prove it in practices out here at St. Thomas Sports Park, and when they go on the road to practice against the Buccaneers and the Falcons, and obviously 3 preseason games. And if they don't feel like they'd be in good hands with him if something happened to Cam, then obviously you maybe reconsider some things, and obviously some more quarterbacks are going to become available when roster cuts come at the end of training camp as we get closer to the season.
Jim, and when you look at this situation, it's a business decision. I don't know if this was specifically Will Levis' business decision, or was this the Titans talking to Will about, hey, if you're still banged up or hurt, it's probably better for you if. And that's how we got to this point. And the only reason I bring that up is this is going into Will Levis' third year. Next year will be his fourth, which is he'll be a free and clear free agent after 2026 or available to compete, right? But do you look at this and say you save value when it comes to Will Levis and may be able to trade him away as for some capital next year? How do you view that side of it? Because there's always leveraging when you look at this type of stuff that happens. What I do know is Levis won't hurt himself, and teams still feel high about him as an NFL prospect.
Yeah, but I kind of thought he'd build his value and maybe increase his value by doing some good things in the preseason and having people see him, and then maybe as the season starts, I thought that's when you potentially could get some action for him. I don't know what the trade market would be for him sitting out a year coming off of surgery. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. I think this was a will. I don't really think this was a situation where the Titans encouraged him to have a procedure to get healthy moving forward. I think Will felt like that was in the best interest of his long-term health and his career moving forward, and let the team know recently this is what he wanted to do, and obviously the team will support him. I mean, they've raved about how he's handled this whole process since Cam came in and how he's worked, and he's been a good teammate and put himself in a position to compete. So when this came down the pike and he brought this decision to them, I think they were have no other position than to support him, but obviously it caught him off guard.
Mm-hmm. Jim Wyatt at TennesseeTitans.com, our guest this morning on Ramon and Will. Jim, what value does Tim Boyle bring into this quarterback room? What do you think Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi like the most about him to keep him around and have him be a part of this process?
I think just because he's been in so many different systems and somebody who can get you through practices and help a young quarterback. I mean, I think a lot of this obviously is having players and other guys in the room who are going to support Cam Ward as he starts his NFL journey. I mean, I don't think there's any question in my mind that Cam Ward's going to be the starter. So now you've got to have guys, again, who can step in and play in case something happens to Cam, but also guys who can help him on a daily and weekly basis in camp getting ready for the season. I think Brandon Allen can do that. I think Tim Boyle can do this. But when I look at Allen and I look at Boyle, I see Allen in a different category. I think he is someone that you could enter the season with as a number 2 and feel pretty good about. I think Tim Boyle is competing for a situation where he either finds himself as a third quarterback on the roster or he's a practice squad quarterback when the season starts. Or, as you guys mentioned earlier, maybe you explore some other options and see if you can upgrade there.
So, Jim, when you talk about Cam and you look at maybe now a week where he could take the first rep with the ones this week instead of maybe earning that over the first couple of weeks or in joint practices and things like that, what impressed you the most about him that you want to see more of that you saw back in June at minicamp and OTAs? Just how quick has that learning curve kind of come to him here in Nashville?
I think it's come pretty quickly. I mean, he's just got a presence about him and a confidence about him that impressed me from the first time I met him at his pro day down in Miami. And then he comes in here and he's obviously in a locker room with older players, veteran guys who've been in the league for a while. And he quickly develops a relationship with Calvin Ridley, who seems to be energized by having the young guy in the room too. I thought his decision-making was good. I thought it was really accurate. Yes, he maybe forced some throws and made a couple of mistakes during the course of the offseason, but you didn't see consistent issues or anything that was alarming to me when I watched him. I felt like he was a guy that was getting better each week. And I think for Cam and for the Titans, you just want to see that trend continue. And he definitely, has already started the process of getting comfortable with his teammates, getting on the same page with the receivers, understanding what is being taught to him by the coaches. And now, again, there's no question, who the team wants to be the quarterback. And, in Denver in week 1, and now Cam's got to go out and solidify it and prove that he's ready.
No doubt about it. Jim, and that's kind of where I was going with it. Jimmy Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com is with us this morning. Jim, also with that, just from a hypothetical, uninformed part of a former player speaking about what this could do for the locker room, though, with this type of move being made this late, because a lot of his teammates will not have the information that probably the training room or the coaches have as it pertains to Levis making the decision to go ahead and elect to have surgery. And it may make those guys rally closer to Cam or buy in more to, the idea that he's the guy moving forward, which we already knew. But the guys that have to step up are Calvin, of course, is just a bunch of guys that have to be in that fold when it comes down to protecting Cam moving forward. And also on the defensive side, does this simplify the locker room, in your opinion, with Levis electing to have this surgery?
In some ways I can see that. I mean, I think everybody around here likes Will. I like Will. I think his teammates like him. But you know how a locker room works, Ramon. If a guy's been here for a couple of years and was the starter last year and probably still felt like during the course of the offseason that he should be the starter. He could still win this job, but also knows how the league works. When you draft a guy first overall, that guy's earmarked to play. And so now you take any distraction out of the equation. And again, I don't think Will would have been a bad apple in the locker room. I don't think he's a complainer. I don't think he's somebody that's going to mope around and be a distraction. But anybody in there that I'm thinking Will didn't get a fair shake at this, that's no longer a part of the equation. Cam, again, is in position to be this team starter. Will no longer going to be in the mix. And I already thought guys were rallying around Cam just because of his presence and because of his ability. And now you get that even more. I mean, now it's just up to him to go out and prove it.
Speaking of proving it too, there's a couple of young guys that came in with Cam Ward, Alec Ayumaner and Chimere DK. How do you see that group right there sifting out who get the most amount of reps, and what did you see from either one of them in the spring?
I like both of them, and I look at that position, and the only thing I'm certain of at this point is that Calvin Ridley's the number one receiver. But I really think that DK and Ayumaner, how quickly they were able to get up to speed and perform is going to dictate just how that whole room shakes out. I mean, it makes sense for Van Jefferson and Tyler Lockett to be 2 and 3 just because of their experience and because of what they've done in the league. And you've got a couple of rookies who have not done anything yet. But I know there's high hopes for those guys after what they did during the off season. And if they're able to be good early and convince coaches that they deserve to be out there and can make plays for you, I think that changes the pecking order of that whole group. And so I'm curious to see how they do with the pads on. And both those guys, very versatile. DK is somebody who I think can help them on special teams in the returning game as well. I think they're very valuable. And if those guys surge and have a great camp, I think you could see them on the field early this fall. And that would affect some other guys.
Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com with us. Jim, it is in that 48-hour span where we expect a lot of news and updates, and a lot of teams will worry about who is here and who's not. And I think the Titans expect to have the same attendance it did for mandatory minicamp. But can you walk us through the injury and the procedure with PUP and with IR and all of these things, Jim? Because I know these things have changed over time. And last season, Nicholas Petit-Frere started the season on the PUP list, yet was brought off of it and practiced about a week and a half later. I think it was the first week in August. For a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry recovering from injury and others, what is that procedure like of PUP list, Jim? Because the way we understand it, guys can come off immediately when they become available now.
That is correct. Yeah, and I think as we count down to the start of the first practice on Wednesday, I guess the things I'm looking out for is just the Femi Oladejo deal get done. He's the only guy left from this rookie class that has not signed, and I know a lot of other guys have signed around him. I think I'd expect for that to happen between now and then, but that's one to keep an eye on because you want to get him out there as soon as possible. And then who does end up on PUP? And I think you mentioned certainly Cushionberry is one to watch for. I think Legarius Sneed is another guy. A couple others that I think are pup potential. And then if they start off on PUP, I think it's a matter of them just continue to do the rehab. And once they, trainers and coaches feel like they're ready to go, they can call those guys up and they'll be back in practicing. But curious to see maybe how they treat a couple of guys and how patient they are with them, right at the start. I think Mullings came back at the very end of the off season. Kevin Winston's another guy. I think those are the four: Mullings, Winston, Sneed, and Cushionberry are the ones I think they've got pup question marks around them. And so the question is whether they're a go from the start or whether they ease in a couple of days or a couple of weeks into camp.
Speaking of which, is there anybody that's in line for a camp extension, like a Roger McCreary, a guy like that, depending upon health at the secondary? I mean, at the cornerback position, you see any of that happening?
I think I'd be surprised. For the one you mentioned, I think I'd be surprised if that happens here in camp. I think probably there's some other guys, and I had a list too. I was kind of looking at of guys who, Hooker, I think is coming up closer to where he's maybe in that conversation. But I don't know. I don't really get the sense that anything is pressing there right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Jim Wyatt, TennesseeTitans.com, joining us. Great stuff, previewing training camp, reacting to the Will Levis news this morning. Jim, we will see you out there this week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. You as well. Jim Wyatt, TennesseeTitans.com, with us, reacting to the Will Levis news that is official per Jim and his report at TennesseeTitans.com just about 40 minutes ago. Yeah. PUP list, the next step for sure. Levis, obviously not in that ballpark because he is out for the season, confirmed. But the four he mentioned, that's kind of the next news we'll wait on. This was surprising news. We weren't really waiting on it because it just kind of appeared. But those four guys, Kevin Winston Jr., Khalil Mullings, Lloyd Cushionberry, Legarius Sneed. Okay.